Welcome, everybody, to True Confessions of a Car Guy. This is episode number 11. We want to thank you all for joining us, especially all of our new followers and all of our new listeners, especially on the TikTok platform. I love exchanging with you guys this past week, and we thank you for all of your support. Thank you for listening and sharing, and we're going to use this as an opportunity to invite you on as well. Send us an email of a crazy story or experience. We'll look it over and maybe have you on the show. But thanks again. Alongside me in studio today is none other the host, John Gavin. Welcome, John.
Hey, Badge. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Another long week, another long day, but it's good to be home. It's good to be doing this. Yeah. And then in a second, we're going to introduce our next guest, Tom McGovern with McGovern and Associates. They are trainers and recruiters out here in the Illinois area. I'm going to bring him in just a second. So thanks again for joining us. I'm going to bring him in right now. Oh, where'd he go?
Survey says. There we go. Hey, Tom.
Right. Welcome to our show, Tom.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be on it. I'm really excited to talk about the car business, passion in my life. So this should be very interesting and fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a step back and let you guys go at it.
Thanks,
okay,
Benji.
Good seeing you, John. It's always a good pleasure to see you.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling you actually came up in our last show because we were talking with Glenn Connor. I don't know if you remember Glenn Connor.
Oh, sure, yeah. Glenn worked
for me. Yeah, he worked for you. He's a big Sox fan.
He's good friends with my sons.
He's a big Sox fan like you.
Right, exactly, right. So he's got it all going. Yeah.
And, I'm a huge Cubs fan, so I'd always bust his chops on a regular basis. But we were talking about it. I said, yeah, I think rocking back in the day was that's where I met you. But I knew of you for many years. I mean, you are an icon in the car business to me, in Chicago especially. I mean, everybody in Chicago knows of you, what you did. Your accomplishments are huge. I mean, I don't know many stores who did the numbers you did back in the day. Besides a Toyota store, maybe in Schaumburg, I don't think anybody did. I mean, you guys were the cat's ass, if I'm not mistaken. How long you been in the car business and what brought you into it?
Okay, I started the car business back in 1975. A good friend of mine, Ron Chris, came by my house. He's driving a brand new 75 Dodge Charger. And I'm asking him, hey, Ron, you drive beaters like me, $50 beaters. What are you doing in that brand new car? And he tells me he's selling cars. And I said to him, I don't know if I can sell cars, but I can certainly drive that 1975 Dodge Charger. He got me in the business. It was this place called Harvey Dodge. And I worked there for about 6 months. Joe Lutz was my sales manager, great guy. He was always motivating me, keeping me going, make sure I didn't quit. That was the main thing. And that's what I would tell a lot of young people is just stay with it, don't quit. And unfortunately, that store did close. Now, Ron got me into business and he told me something. He said, you don't sell cars in the winter. So I took the winter off and I went to this store, Leeds Ford in Chicago on Diversity and Cicero. And somebody else you worked for, Joe Scala, was the general manager. And he hired me there. And I learned a lot there. I worked there from 76 till 1980, kind of worked my way into management, but I really wasn't ready for management. 1978, 79, high interest rates. We had 3 feet of snow. I decided that I don't think I want to do this management thing. I want to push myself as far as a salesperson. My obsession was to go to a high volume Chevrolet dealer and be their top salesperson. I don't know why, but that was my motivation. That's what I was going to do. So I went to Fensel Tufo Chevrolet in Glendale Heights. We had just moved, bought a house in Roselle, and this was a big store. Now, this was back in the day when Chevrolet was king. So you had Fensel Tufo Chevrolet. I called it the triangle. You had Solozzi Edelson in Elmhurst, and then you had Long Chevrolet in Elmhurst.
Yep.
And very competitive. Now, you got to think about the way you did business back then. There was no CSI. There was no surveys. So it was pretty much all out war.
Yes.
But that's really where I learned the business because it was a high volume store. John Tufo was a great promoter, good advertiser. He knew how to motivate salespeople. He would talk to business. He would have a meeting every Monday morning, talk to business. A lot of guys didn't pay attention. I paid attention because I knew I loved this business. I was so thankful that I got into business, started making money. And it is really a good business if people just stay with it. So I learned a lot about the business there. Now, I like to contrast the way business was done there as opposed to today, and it kind of evolved out a little differently as today. I think about the hours, John. You started what, 1980?
I started, actually it was 1983,
Okay.
and the hours back then were 9 to 9, 9 to 9, a 1 to 9, 9 to 9, 9 to 6 if you got lucky, but usually it was a 1 to 9. And then Saturdays you had a day off during the week. I was off Thursday, so you had one day off. So 3 bell to bells, a 1 or a 9 or a 9 to 6, but you never got to take that 6. And then Saturday was like a 8 o'clock day. So
right.
you got there at 8 in the morning, and you went home at 8 at night. So
I started before that. When I started, it was a 6-day work week. We were open on Sundays. So 1975 till 1983, you worked 6 days a week. You had 3 bust outs, 3 9-to-9s, and then a 9 to 5, a 1 to 9. And they had no problem getting people. It was this big floor. We probably had 30 plus salespeople. And I think about how the business has changed, the way they work a deal today. Like today now with all the computers, everything's kind of set up, all the numbers. Back in those days, the salesperson would do the first pencil on their own. They would kind of figure out themselves. And we always worked cash difference. Cash difference was key.
So not to interrupt you, but my wife's going to listen to this, and she's not going to understand what first pencil. We get a lot of people who've never been in the car, but so first pencil is when, the salesman's been dealing with the customer for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. They finally sit them down, they get them something to drink, and they come to the desk, the tower. Now they're all raised up, and they get some numbers. So the first pencil is that first set of numbers that goes out to the customer to see what they say.
Right.
So exactly. Go on, sorry.
Okay, so there's a couple of things that Pencil Twofold had that wouldn't be done today. The philosophy, one thing, they didn't want you to talk payments. They want the finance manager to do the payments. Now, back then, there wasn't a lot of bad credit. If there was a credit situation, there was just weak credit. You had to try to get them financed on that.
Right.
But now, you would probably spend more time with a customer back then at the beginning because you had to meet and greet, qualify, and you had to hit the lot because they would come in and tell you, looking for a mid-sized car. Now, back then, Chevrolet sold a lot of cars. I was in the new car department. We probably sold 150 to 200 new cars a month in that store. And you had to go on the lot and explain the cars to people. You had to land them on a car. And basically, my training was that when I was at Harvey Dodge, Joe Lutz told me, hey, Tom, when you go on the lot, don't come back till they pick out a car. And well, that's a great philosophy. So you had to go on the lot. It wasn't like today, they're coming on the internet, they're coming in on a car. So you had to know your inventory, you had to know your product. You actually had to do some selling. So you land them on a car, go through steps, test drive, just like today. And then, like you said, go into the first pencil. So you're gonna work your own deal. And what the managers would do back then is that they just watch the deal. They're really controlling the gross. The gross profit was made up with the manager. They knew the salesperson was going to do the volume, work for the deals. So you never knew what the manager was going to take on the deal. So you kind of learn never to lock in on a price. You always say, well, if I could do this, if I could work that out with the manager, would you be willing to take the car?
If I could, I would I. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Always, because you don't want to be caught. You could even have a nice deal, and the manager might say to you, no, go pick them up another $500. Now, remember, there's no survey.
Right.
So it wasn't CSI driven back then.
Yeah.
Even though they wanted to take care of customers on that. So that would be the difference. And you kind of stayed off payment. But I did learn, you learn throughout as you do things, is if somebody owes money on the car, they're going to want to work the deal on payments. That's just the fact. If you just kind of watch it, you observe it, they're going to want to work the car on payments. If they don't owe money on the car, they're going to work the price on cash difference or on the trade value. So that would be the difference. And I would tell people in training, when I would train people, that 95% of the people that I would sell a car to, I would never do out the door for them. I would just stay at the cash difference and close them on that number, and then 95% of them went along with it. If they said, "What's it out the door?" I would just say it was plus the tax and plates. They didn't have a doc fee back then, and
well, like around 1989 or maybe 88, the Foursquare came to be. Right. In the car industry. And that, I remember I was at River Oaks Toyota. River Oaks Toyota was the Toyota warehouse. We sold 400 cars a month, big store, Calumet City. But we had a guy come from Texas. We used to call him bent ear because he had like an ear that was kind of bent in. Big guy, big burly Texan, this dog don't hunt type guy. Every time a deal would come to the desk, this dog ain't gonna hunt. But he brought with him the Foursquare. And that kind of changed the car industry in Chicagoland, at least, because, I don't know if you know this, but I've worked at over 50 stores. I'm doing the math. So unlike yourself, you're pretty steady Eddie. Every time I had a pay plan, I worked for you, and I worked at 3 places the same year. But in all the places I went to, Foursquare was starting to come around in like 88, I think, right? Maybe it was sooner. Yeah. You would know better than me because you started before me, but I think it's around then. And it came up from Texas, and they were just payment to down payment. Customer, they'd hit you with a $900 payment with $10,000 down, and then you'd go back to, and some stores still use it today. Right. So when you're training, when you're training guys today, what's the biggest difference that you tell them when working a deal? I mean, what's the biggest difference because you train managers too, or just salespeople?
Not salespeople, mainly salespeople.
Salespeople. So what's the biggest? So
I got to kind of go when I do train, I got to know how they operate at their dealership. But today now they just give out the sheet. They have the full out the door number, net balance of finance, plus all the payments. So a lot of salespeople don't even know how to explain that buyer's order. So I have to teach them how to explain it. And I try to teach them to go to a cash difference on that, because my philosophy is this. The only thing I can control on that deal is the price of the car and the trade value. And then I can work with the bank to figure out your payments. So that's really where I wanted to focus on it. Even when I went to Rockenbach, we always use cash difference. We didn't do Foursquare. We always work cash difference and a payment. Now, as cars got more expensive, payment became bigger into the deal. Payment was an issue as far as closing a sale.
Yeah, I think you brought up something that when we started, customers come in and we'd walk that pavement for sometimes 2 hours before we got it on a car, because they didn't come in and say, hey, I want P123A. They came in and said, I drive, I got 3 kids. I go on vacation once a year. I need something that gets decent gas mileage, and we'd have to walk around and figure out a car. And I don't know about you, but me as a salesman, I sold used cars for a long time. I would have 3 cars picked out, 2 duds and 1 winner for each type, for a 4-door, for a station wagon, they didn't really have vans back when I sold. So what I was getting at is don't come in without a car picked out. In today's world is more like, don't work numbers until you go for at least a 30-minute test drive with these people, or 20 at least. The longer you're in that car, the better chance you got to sell it. And I don't think a lot of guys get that today. So,
Back then, landing on a car was 80% of the sale.
Yes.
Especially used cars. If you got them on the car they liked, you felt like you were going to make a sale.
Yeah.
Same thing with new car. People came in. There was no internet. I mean, if you sat down and showed them a brochure, they're just going to take the brochure and leave. You had to go to the lot, show them the cars, land them on a car, do the test drive, and then present numbers.
Well, that was a 2-hour deal, right? 2-hour deal minimum.
Yeah, you might get a lot of half an hour with somebody.
Yeah, sure. Today, sometimes the deal's done in an hour, and then they still wait 2 hours to get billed out. Right. Which is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so different. I've said it before, we've done a lot of things that, today you definitely could, but I've seen them burn titles. I've seen them throw keys on roofs. I've been in a trailer where I watched the keys go up. And today's world, we didn't have anybody doing a dealer rate or anything like that. But the one thing we did do, and you said it, was we always did try to take care of the customer. Usually when that came up, if something like that happened, it was usually one of those people which I don't know if you train it or you don't. Most of the manufacturers now require the survey, and it's just life in itself. Who goes and does surveys the most is people who just like to complain anyhow. So you can't make everybody happy. So that same person would still be that same person back then that they'd end up with their keys on the roof, would be the same person today be giving them a bad review.
Exactly. Right.
So
another thing I like to talk about, the atmosphere. And I think about it when I got people would dress up.
Yeah.
You wear a 3-piece suit back in the late 70s, 3-piece suits, you dress up, everybody looked good, you felt good. Now it's just kind of degenerated down to, I could line up 4 people, one's a manager, 2's a salesperson, one's a porter, tell me which one's the porter.
Yeah.
You might have a hard time. It's gone down a little bit too low on that part. I kind of fought, when I was at Rockenbach, I fought it. and I made sure it was polos. I told if they wore polos, I wanted dress slacks, dress shoes. But that's just the way the world
think
is.
about this though, Tom, and what did when we started? Did we have a salary?
Right.
Talk about what your salary was, what your day, what was the pitch they gave you when you started? So as an owner, they tell you, what did you get? What did you get out of the deal?
Well, basically, I mean, there was no draw.
No draw.
If you didn't make a check, you didn't make a check. You didn't go home.
I mean, you got a demo. You got a demo.
That was the thing that got me in the business. I probably would not have gotten in the car business if it wasn't for the demo.
It's exactly why I got in. I saw an ad.
Brand new car.
I got a brand new car. I was driving a Marquis Brougham. I remember 83 Marquis Brougham. But in today's world, that's part of the problem that dealers, I think, really need to think about. We still say, here's a draw. So this is a guy coming out of because you look at the guys in the car business. We're all street guys and we're common sense guys. And we're a little rough around the edges. I don't know many guys that graduated from college or in the car business. If they did, they're CEOs of big groups or they're GMs or controllers, etc. But the pitch to the guy today is, all right, listen, you're going to come in, your hours are on the wall. Because if you miss a day and you got to deliver, you're going to split that commission. We're going to pack, we're going to take X amount out before you even get paid. And then we're going to give you 20, 25, 30% of it. We don't give you any salary. And then holidays, don't worry about that. You'll be with us every month. So once the dealer figures out that they got to change that a little bit, which I loved it the way it was. I mean, you got kids, I got kids. Mine turned out great. Yours turned out great. We didn't spend a lot of time. I got grandkids right now. I told you we were talking about it when we talked about getting on. I said, if I had no grandkids were this much fun, I would have had them first because I'm getting to live all the stuff that as a car guy, I never saw. I never saw my kids' first steps, never saw wrestling meets, saw one track meet. It just, we didn't get that kind of time, Right. So it's a whole different animal today. So find it. That's why what you do is so important for car dealers is because you can kind of weed out some of that stuff that's coming in that you really, it's hard because you got too many lawsuits against you got, people don't want to show up, and what can you do about it? You really can't do anything today. You just got to kind of tolerate it after you hired somebody in any business almost. So, what are some of the places you worked at besides Rockenbach? And didn't you work Fensel, Tufo?
Right, I worked at Leach Ford for 4 years in the city. It's on Diversity and Cicero, said Ford. And then mainly, my Fensel Tufo has really learned the trade. John Tufo was a great owner, great promoter, high volume store. So I learned all the tricks of being a high volume store. So I knew when I went to Rockenbach how to make a store high volume.
How many owners came out of Fensel Tufo? How many owners came out of that store?
Oh, quite a few.
Yeah, right. There's like
a lot of good car people come out of there. I mean, he was a good dealer. He was a well-run store. He was. Yeah. He went for it all. He went for the volume and he went for the gross. I mean,
never heard a bad thing about him. Never heard a bad thing about him.
He took care of me. I had never had a salary, but I had a great bonus plan all the time. And he would.
I worked for Jimmy Urso. Jim Urso worked at Fensel.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of the other guy. You'll know him. He was my GM at Isuzu Glasses. He worked for Larry Fall Group for a while. He worked for Tufo with you, but I can't think of his name right now. It might come to me. But he had told me so many stories about how much fun it was to work at Fensel Tufo. Yeah. Or he might have been a long Chevrolet guy and told me about the competition with Jimmy at Fensel, or maybe, my brain isn't as good as it used to be. Maybe they were both that long and told me about Fensel Tufo. So I don't remember exactly, but I do remember that Jimmy and this other guy I can't think of right now. Back in the day, that was the place to work if you wanted to make dough.
You make good money there.
Long Fensel or the other guy in Elmhurst.
Right, Slowsy Ellison, yeah.
Where you always save more money.
I worked for Slowsy Ellison for like 9 months. That was a very good store. It was totally different than Fensel Tufo. In my opinion, it wasn't as well managed, but if you're a good salesperson, you can make more money at Slowsy Ellison because they promote. That's again, I listen to their ads, watch what they do. Advertising works, So it all came together when I went to Rockenbach, how you operate to be a big store like that. So that was a very good store. But thinking about some of the things we had to do at Festival Tufo was interesting. They would order all the cars without radios. So it made S&S a lot of money, but I'm sure S&S made sure that the organization made a lot of money. So, and you had to get your pitch down. And then they went down to, S&S came out with a rear defogger, an add-on rear defogger. Now, that was a nightmare. That was an absolute nightmare. So you had to have your pitch down. People come in, they look at the car, and they'd be on the test drive, and they go, where's the radio?
Think about that, people. Today's cars pretty much have every modern convenience there is. I mean, I was just in a car. I had an electric car for a short period. Couldn't stand it. But this thing would break on me no matter where I got to. It would tell me somebody's next to me, somebody's behind me. So cameras light up everywhere. Right. No radio, no rear defroster.
No, right. So, they wouldn't notice the rear defogger on this right away.
Yeah.
So, you had to have your pitch down. Well, we like to, there's a choice. There's many different radios. So that way we decided not to put them in, and you get to pick which radio you want. It could be an 8-track or a cassette, or maybe you just want an AM radio. So why pay for something you don't want? So you had your pitch down on that one. But it was a pain in the butt because you had to come back and get the radio. And then they noticed, well, where's the rear defogger? Well,
especially in Chicago.
Right.
We used that excuse for a while that it was a dealer. Well, we got that car from a store dealer in Florida if that came to a beef. But yeah.
So you had to get that down. Well, a lot of people don't want a rear defogger. Why pay for something you don't want?
How long were you a salesman before you became a manager, before you became a GM? How long was that?
I sold cars for 11 years.
So
no, I was an ace. I was a pro. I mean, that's why I stayed at Tufo. Every year you take me to dinner. Hey, Tommy, one more year, I'll make you a manager. And so I knew, okay.
Were you the number one guy there?
I get more bonus money out of him. Then he'd do it again and again. Then he finally made me a manager. He said, I want you to work in finance for a while, then I'll make you a sales manager. So that's
were you the number one salesman at Tufo back in the day?
Oh yeah. Well, that was my goal. When I walked in there, I decided it's amazing when you have a goal and you decide who you are. It took me like 2 months. I was on top of the board. And the thing is, I never worried about money, John. Never thought about money. The money came. Be on top of the board. Very competitive.
It was if you get into the car business and you're an uneducated guy like myself, just came straight from high school basically into the car business. And my wife was a dentist, so I don't think I've ever made less money than my wife, except for like the first 4 years in the car business. Right. So it's a very lucrative business for a guy basically who's really got no direction, but you got to put in the time. What did you like when you became a GM? How hard was it to hire back then, or what did you look for? Who's some of your successes, or you don't have to say their names, but what were some of the things you found that turned into successes?
Well, you had to build people. So when I go to Rockenbach, there's only like 4 or 5 salespeople there. It was this, in fact, I had a little thing with Tufo. I wasn't too happy, so that made me make the move. I was living in St. Charles at the time, so that's an hour drive to Grays Lake. But I wasn't happy. I felt like I got snubbed. You got to have some pride in yourself. I felt like I got snubbed. And this guy, Steve Sosnowski, he's working for Marcom, which was the people that record the phones, to do the phone ups. And he told me about the story. There's a sleepy little Chevrolet store in Grays Lake. Why don't you check it out? I said, well, you're calling me the right time because I'm ready to blow out. I'm not happy. So I go up there. I mean, I should have never taken the job. I had a better job. If I didn't improve the business, I probably would have made $60,000. And it's a small little store. And I started off as the general sales manager, but I just wanted to go in and quit and be done with it and see what would happen. So I'm, what am I, like 37, 38? I'm full of piss and vinegar. I'm ready to go. So I'm just, all of a sudden I realized this place is a gold mine. They had a lot of traffic. They didn't really have any inventory. It took me 3-4 months, but I knew, again, people should pay attention where they're working at, how people do things. Don't be so critical, kind of critique them. And realize when you become a manager, you'll get your turn. Don't be, a lot of guys get negative on the managers. Well, maybe you'll be the same way when you're a manager, But I always critique Festival Tufo. So I knew right away going in there, I had to start working on inventory in September, October, and I pounded it real hard, and I still couldn't get it. So I went to the conversion vans. And that was the main thing that built it. But at Fensel Tufel, I sold one conversion van.
Wow.
But I kind of worked it, here I am. Now, when you're selling cars back in those days, you are a professional negotiator. So everything you do, you negotiate. So I want to do vans, so I get the van reps in, and I would just go to them, what's it cost if I do 5 vans? And they do 5 vans, and then negotiate. Well, what if I gave you 10? Okay, he comes back with a better deal with 10. I go, what are you going to give the salespeople? Because I knew salespeople got to be in the game. They give me money and then I tell them this. I tell you what, you come in, you sell 5 vans in 30 days, I'll give you another 10. Well, next you know, this guy's hanging out in the dealership. And I learned now somewhere start selling vans and just built it up. And we got it up to 85, 90 vans.
Wow.
And then started building the inventory, big into used cars. Now, my thing was never miss a trade-in. Now, with V-Auto, it's a little tough because you might look, oh my God, I can't do that. But back then, you had a nice car, you went with your gut, you made the deal. So my philosophy always was don't miss a trade. And I remember all the meetings and used car manager would come in, we're stepping up on trades, we're not going to miss any trades. And they really didn't. I really felt they missed deals. But I'm not the manager, but I'll get my turn. So I really built that store up to build it up to 400 used cars a month in, month out. And mainly not missing a trade and getting on the trades. So they had to build inventory. That was the main thing, build inventory. So I did that from 88 till 95. We outgrew. We got to about 350 cars a month and still having a hard time getting inventory. Well, the breaking point was we built a new store. We called it a mega store.
Right.
And back then, if you build a new store, you get a special allocation. And they told me, whatever you want. So, okay, right.
That's scary.
I got big ones now, so I'm not playing around, right?
Right.
And I know the game. If you got them, you'll sell them.
That's right.
You'll never be afraid of inventory. So I remember Bob O'Connor came in. Okay, so what do you want for a special inventory? I go, I want 1,000 cars and trucks. And he no, Tom, how many cars and trucks do you want? I go, I want 1,000 cars and trucks. Well, I ended up getting 700, and never looked back.
Yeah.
That was it. Once we got those cars on the ground, we were ready to go. And then just one.
And what was the most cars you ever did in a month at Rockenbach?
900. 900 was the biggest month.
Yeah, I think I was there. You did. I think you did 900 when I was there, close to it. I was down at that other building,
right?
And I know we did like 200 something cars out of there. With Glenn Conner was down there,
right? Used cars. I mean, I wasn't a used car guy, but I knew.
Yeah,
that's what makes it happen. I mean, all the keys would be on my desk. Nobody was leaving if they had a trade in. They're coming in my office to get their keys.
Yeah,
I just made the deals.
Well, when you said, when you're selling cars in the 70s and 80s, even 90s, even today, you're a negotiator. Not as much today because you're not negotiating price, because price is the only thing they really know when they walk in. But I can remember being at Perillo, and because it was Highline downtown, I would probably get, starting in somewhere around July, I would get emails and phone calls from lawyers wanting to come and sell cars for the summer. Now, we never let anybody work part-time because you'll end up, another guy's raising a family.
The whole floor.
Your guys raising families and you're out here.
Right.
But because they knew that that's what we did, it would be a big benefit to them in the courtroom. So yeah, that was a big deal. That is a big deal, but it has changed so much. And, you did say something that, I worked for V-Auto for 7.5 years. And I got to tell you, V-Auto's philosophy is to never lose a trade also.
Okay.
And the dealers that are losing them, the reason they do is, first of all, the best guys from V-Auto that trained me, that I worked with, the John Griffins, the Fabian Mackins, these guys said to me, basically, don't lose a trade and make sure. The problem is these guys all think they're Nostradamus or they got a time machine in the car business, that they put in a profit that they're going to make down the road. Well, how the fuck do you know what you're going to make? I don't know how guys put 2,000, 3,000, 4,000.
No.
And then they look at the auto metrics and go, well, I want to pay 85%. We got 4G's profit. You didn't really do a recon. You guessed on a recon. And then you got a bunch of other charges you're not even paying attention. And then we have PAC, which PAC's okay. That's got to be there. You got to make a living. But at the same time, don't ever lose a deal over PAC, over profit for a trade that you don't know. The right ass, there's an ass for every seat. You can make 5,000 on a car, you make 500 on a car. you don't really know. The metrics help you, but
especially today with when you have you got to be competitive on Cars Guru. But I really believe if the car is a one owner trade, you try to stay within the guidelines. But I would say when the music stops, you write that deal, you take that trade, take a chance, because I believe a lot of people are sitting on Cars Guru, Cars.com, waiting for that one owner, no accident car, and they'll pay up for it. It's always, even when you're on the lot, when you knew if you had that one owner, beautiful car, somebody liked it, it was a nice deal.
You know Dan Kern, right? You know, Dan
sure,
Kern.
He's a good car.
So Danny,
when I was at Rockenbach, he was my competitor at Classic Chevrolet.
Yeah, Danny was a big pedigree guy on a car. So when you came in to buy a car, Danny would go through the whole background of that car, back to when it was an infant to today, to where it's been, what they've done. So it's true that, you know, in today's market, you know, you should never lose a one owner car, but in today's market, you really shouldn't lose any cars because you can't get them. You go to a sale, they're not there. I mean, it's a tough market to be in. Yeah, tough market.
You're the cars you don't want. You go take them to the auction.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
You're here to make deals. So
everything at the curb. You take a chance. If it's at the curb, it's a one owner. You just take your chances. You'd be surprised what happens.
Did you ever have any guys you hired that turned into a real problem? Not
really, not too much. I mean, you had some sad stories, you know, the drugs in the car business. You had some really good salespeople, very talented salespeople. I won't name names, but you felt bad for them. You know, they got, you know, back. You kind of saw it evolve through the business, mid 80s, late 80s. It started hitting that cocaine, and drug tests. It was a shame. Those guys were the top notch. We had one guy. This guy was a killer. He was just phenomenal, but they got him and put him in. I would say the saddest thing, just seeing some very talented people wreck their lives. Yeah, it's kind of sad.
Yeah,
but,
unfortunately, the car business. You know, I've said it before. It's a pretty playful crowd, to say the least. That like to go out. They like to have fun, and they're up on all the newest things, whether it be cars, houses, watches, boats.
Right. Now,
you name it, they've got all the toys because they work a lot of hours. I mean, think of Tom, how many times you work 75, 80 hours? You know,
sure.
It's like that was like a normal thing for I don't know how long. My wife says it all the time to me that I can't believe we got our kids to where they're at and where we're at. Well, the hours that I work, because I was never around. We'll be married. We're just saying we'll have 40 years next year, 2 years. So we're at 38 years right now, married, and we went together for 9.
Right.
We've been together forever. That's like dog years.
Because the hours can ruin a marriage. You know?
Yes.
You're married to the job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're still on call, no matter what happens. If you aren't there, there's a phone call you're going to get because something happens. Or what's some of the funnier things that happened to you while you were in the car business?
Well, I'm saying, going back to that rear defogger, you know, that was interesting. You know, people call you up and say, my rear defogger fell off. What do you mean it fell off? You know, things like that. And customers.
Did you have any finance guys who would, because I walked into it where I walked in because I've had so many jobs. I walk in and everything they sold was bullshit. And so all week, how many guys have you ever had? Because you had, I think, one of the best finance departments, I think, in the industry at one time. I can't remember the one guy's name, but
it was strong.
They were very, very strong.
Yeah, he worked with me selling cars at Fensel Tufo. But John, let's think about finance manager. Now, when I'm at Fensel Tufo, the finance manager participates in the deal. If you had a tough payment, you would box close that. I don't think the guys today would do that.
So for those of you wondering what box close means, so not bragging here, but I was a really good finance guy. So when they'd have a deal on the floor and the customer would say, well, I got to be at 350 and they're at 450, they would say, all right, just bring it to John. And they'd bring it in the office and I'd have to close that deal at 450 and box close it because the finance office, we call it the box most of the time. But that doesn't happen anymore. Today's, you know, I don't know if you saw the show with Jimmy Duvas with the FTC. You know, today everything is line itemed out that you have to give that to them before they even get in finance, which is okay. I mean, I'm good with all that, but a lot of customers that went back in the day, we all want to be at 350. Everybody does. It wasn't the reality. I see it all the time on social media. Guys saying, his customer's so unrealistic, wants to be at $400 payment on a new truck. Well, new trucks are what, $70,000 today, right, $80,000 for a good one. So right. Yeah, they don't do any of the box closing. They don't actually pencil the deal the same way with sending in a TO turnover. You'd have a manager. How many managers you send out on a deal before you let a customer leave back in the day?
Yeah, right. Especially new cars. When I'm pushing new cars, I'm gonna be the last guy they're gonna see.
Yeah,
on the deal.
Well, in the managerial staff, I can remember being at Lynch Buick, which back in the day sold 300 cars. So a Buick dealer on Irving Park in Chicago. So did Jacob's Twin at Oak Park in Grand, 10 miles away or 8 miles away. They sold 300 Buicks, but we had a GM, GSM, 3 sales managers, 2 used car managers, and 4 box guys, 4 finance guys. Right. Sure. And if you let a customer leave without any of those managers talking to them, and they'd even say to each other, if they could give me a minute, they'd go get one of their other, like it was Pete Hicks and who was the other guy? His son, I think, is in the car business right now, but can't think of it. But they'd go help each other and close. I mean, you had so many people trying to make this deal because, like you said, it was a lot more, I think, more competitive back then than it is today. And
another thing I want to talk about finance back then. Now, Festival Tufo did it this way. Rockenbach, we did. If we saw any kind of daylight, we rolled the car. We gave them the card.
Yes.
Make sure you sign the rider, and away they go. And then we probably had 100 plus re-signs at the end of the month. You had to bring them back and kind of work it out. I don't think people could do that today. Well, now you can't because of Dealer Track. You didn't even know their payoff.
No.
It was at night.
You didn't know their credit score. You didn't know any of that stuff.
It looks good. You rolled it, and you made deals that way, though. You made a lot of deals. I mean, you just working out.
I can remember. Yeah, Danny would go. Well, because Danny was our GM and finance when I first started in the car business. Danny would say, "Have you ever financed a car before? Have you ever been late on a payment? When's your payment due? How long have you lived at your house? Because the credit app wasn't, it was just the top part and then the job part. It's two things, real easy. I think it's pretty similar to today, but they couldn't get anything back and they'd fax it over and we would spot deliver or give the customer the car without any kind of knowledge.
Make sure you got a rider.
Yeah, and back in the early 80s, I don't think we had riders. I don't remember there being riders when I worked, but I didn't work in finance, so maybe they did.
Yeah, I did. I remember doing it. That was the first thing they said, make sure they signed this form here.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because
I don't remember them.
Technically, you own the contract if you don't have the rider.
Yeah, so my first finance job was 85 with Lauren Buick, and I went to Pat Ryan School.
Right, yeah.
And I've told this story, so I'm not going to tell it too long. But anyhow, I got a brand new Buick Electra to drive downtown, and I ended up totaling it, and then telling the GM, whose name escapes me right now, that it got stolen, and it all played out for many years. And then I saw him again, like 25 years later, at Gianotti's, and I saw him, and I said, "Listen, I got to tell you." That car never got stolen. I wrecked it. I was drunk. I was with the 2 trainers from Pat Ryan and the lady that he sent me with. He wanted to kill me. If I wasn't, 40 and he wasn't 65 at the time, he probably would have tried to beat my ass.
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, there's been some different things that have happened in the car business that.
Yeah, it's still the car business. It's a lot of fun. It's a good career. People really get serious about it. It's changed somewhat. I mean, I think you probably had better if you're really good at it. In the old days, you made a lot of money. You had to be a good negotiator. You had to be persistent with people because no internet. They gave that they're going to go shop 4 places. This is our first stop. Well, you couldn't listen to that. You just had to go. You were just trained like you got to sell them a car now. That's it, and that's
Right.
Pretty much what you did on that.
Well, so now the company you run is McGovern Recruiting and Training, and you're based out of Oak Brook.
Right.
For anybody who wants to get a hold of Tommy for recruiting or training, his number is 847-276-8501.
Right.
And, you know, I know a lot of stores because I've worked at so many. I know a lot of them, they reach out to you all the time. I know
yeah, definitely. Yeah, we got a
Mapleton Group's got like 75 stores. They're always probably beating on your door. But if you need people and you need training, Tom's your guy. He's one of the best car guys and nicest guys I ever met in the car business.
All right, thank you, John. Same here for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good business, and I love doing it. I like to be a part of the business. I like to bring people into business and see success stories because I think it's a great business. I thank God every day I got it. Like you said, I didn't go to college, got in the car business, sold cars, and when I started making money, I'm like, wow, this is a gift. This is a gift. And I didn't mind, I was a worker. My lifestyle was a little different. My wife, as soon as my daughter was born, she didn't go to work, which was fine. That means I go work like hell, work as many hours, and when I come home, everything's done. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So it was a great lifestyle. When I look back, I love it. Working hours never bothered me because just make the money.
It never bothered me.
Family.
It never bothered me until I looked at it in hindsight.
Right,
I didn't think about it at the time. I didn't think about it at the time. And my kids say it all the time to me now, because my son played sports in high school. My daughter played sports in high school. I never really saw any of it. And I now that I see my grandkids walk, talk, I've seen their first steps, their first time on a bike. Because I got 5 as of yesterday. Had another granddaughter yesterday. So I got 5 grandkids from 3 to a day old. And I'd never witnessed any of that stuff. So my wife always has to nudge me and remind me, suck this one in because you didn't see this last time. So, but it was a great business. It really was. It still is. It's a great business, especially if you don't really know what direction to take in your life. I mean, I think kids are stuck. When you get out of high school and you go to college, you graduate, I think you're 21, 20. I don't know how the world expects them to know what they want to do the rest of their life at 22. I think we do everything backwards. We ought to be able to collect unemployment or Social Security from 22 to 40 and then start working at 40 to 75 because all the shit I want to do now, I'm afraid my body's breaking down. I can't go, ice fish Canada anymore because I'm just old now. My body just can't do it. So it's a great business if you don't really have a direction going into school or coming out of school. It's still lucrative if you hustle. You work hard, and that goes for anything, really. You work hard, you're going to succeed. Whether it's, polishing doorknobs or it's selling cars, you'll be the best at it if you put in the time. So you're an expert. You got 10,000 hours plus doing this. I consider myself an expert. I've done a lot of dumb things leading up to this point, but I've also done a lot of good things. So same as I know you have, because I know how many guys talk so highly of you. And I appreciate you coming on. For anybody,
it's a good time to talk to business. There's a lot of interesting stuff. It's a great business. Still love it.
Yeah, I'd like to do this again. I'd like to do this again.
Yeah, definitely.
So it was.
You got my mind working to be other things to talk about.
Good to catch up. So
excellent. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, make sure anybody watching, you like, comment, subscribe, share. What's our newest when we're on that's TikTok, right?
TikTok, yeah. We want to welcome all of our new TikTok followers. This past week, we picked about 40 of them, and they're working car guys and car girls who are day to day pounding the pavement at the dealership and have shown their support. And it's nice to connect with them and exchange messages. So it's a nice surprise. And speaking of that, you can find us online. We have our own website, trueconfessionsofacarguy.com. And then on all social media platforms, you can look us up. Or for you older people who are into audio podcasts, we're on every platform from Spotify to Apple. You can look up the show and have it on automatic download and listen to us as well. And I told you earlier this week, we've gone international. We've got listeners in Austria, Germany, Finland. We want to welcome that. That's pretty cool, man.
Very exciting.
Big world out there.
Yeah, it is. It's a big.
Yeah.
The technology is powerful. Social media is powerful, and we're just glad to be a part of it. And again, we want to thank everyone for tuning in. Thanks.
Okay.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Take it easy, Tommy. Bye, Badgie. Thank you.
Bye. See ya.
Have a good one, pal.